This is the meeting of Wednesday, September 7th of NVCOG TTAC. I guess we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just working down the agenda, a roll call. Ray Rogozinski, City of Bristol.
Paul Benevich, Town Engineer, Watertown.
Mark Presidento, Town of Woket.
Glenn Clark, Town of Thomaston.
Helen Long, Town of Oxford.
Maybe someone in a NVCOG can just kind of read off who's in attendance. And have them
There's
confirm.
also Megan Patton, Anil, sorry, this is Lithuanian.
Here comes Roy.
Kovalkis, Stephen Mance, and someone on the phone.
And Roy Kavanaugh, City of Waterbury. I'll say it for him.
Brian Nestor is.
Good morning, all. Yes, Neil Polakowski is here for the borough of Naugatuck. I'm with Kleinfelder along with Megan Patton.
Okay. Just moving on, next item is public comment. Is there anyone from the general public to address the committee? Not seeing any.
Received no request for public comment.
Okay. Next item, approval of meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Transportation planning, LOTSIP, update from Mark Nielsen and Rich Donovan, and Karen, a financial plan.
All right, good morning, all. Just want to do a quick overview of where we stand with the LOTSIP program. As you can see on the screen, we have 37 projects that we've sort of, initiated, completed, in design, and are considering with a total value of $111 million. So we've been very aggressive over the years to get things moving. 13 projects have been completed. We have currently 7 under construction, and then 12 in design. A number of those 12 that are in design, a couple of them will proceed this year. We just received an authorization, or we didn't, but the town of Beacon Falls just received authorization to advertise their project. So, we're moving right along. Next slide. And, this is sort of, again, the comparison between our aggregated obligations and the amount of total revenue that we're likely to be allocated. Where the orange line crosses the blue line, it shows that we're sort of in a negative situation, but we really don't think that's going to be the case. We're still going to be able to do our program. And starting in 24, the allocation of LOTSIP will be increasing. We haven't gotten the official exact amount, but it will be in the range of $1 to $2 million to the region. So that will help our program going forward. So the deficit situation we're showing in 25 could be reduced or eliminated. So we're keeping an aggressive approach, and because we think that there's always some delays in projects, so it's always good to have a few be over programmed so that we can keep the program moving. So any questions I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions or comments from the committee? If not, moving on to inspection requirements.
Yeah, this is me. Inspection really isn't something we've talked about. I don't think. I think we've all been so focused on getting projects into the program, through the program, into construction. That's really been the focal point. But as time goes on, it's been in the back of my mind, especially to kind of, just kind of go through with the group, what are the requirements for inspection? Because I think some municipalities, they'll hire, especially in the bigger projects, they'll hire an engineering firm to do the inspection. And other municipalities don't, which, you have that option, but I think as time goes on, we're kind of finding that some municipalities are doing a better job with the inspection into things, where other ones, maybe need to step it up a little bit. So I put together a memo, and basically I just pulled out what is in the DOT lots of guidelines and printed it out here in the memo, and then I added a little bit at the end about what we're going to require. But I just wanted to hit a couple of the highlights, and then we'll distribute this memo after the meeting. So this is from the DOT guidelines. The first bullet point is they call it municipal staffing. And they're saying that the municipality must assign a municipal employee to act as in the capacity of municipal administrator to be in responsible charge of the LOTSIP project at all times. Now, this is someone different than the inspector. This is just someone, the go-to person at the municipality that's going to be, in charge of the project, and then they'll be, in charge of the inspection staff. And under inspection staffing, qualifications and experience of the inspection staff must be acceptable to the engineer, and that's the engineer who designed the project, and be able to satisfactorily perform the required functions. There's some other verbiage in here, but that's the kind of the highlight. There's a quality assurance paragraph. The municipality and/or its consultant must possess and maintain quality assurance procedures that will be employed to monitor the contractor's performance. There's a section on materials testing. Local standards for materials testing requirements may be used. However, in the absence of local standards or requirements, materials incorporated into the project must be tested in accordance with the department's schedule of minimum testing for the LOTSIP. And I included what that minimal testing would be in this memo. And it just kind of goes through, things like subbase and concrete and variety of things here. Kind of that hits the big items. And then there's record keeping. Record keeping must include, but is not limited to, inspector reports, contract items, material testing and testing summary, computations and quantity summaries, payments to contractor, payments to consultants, and material testing services. So I'm just pointing all this out because, eventually these projects are going to get audited. And I feel that, they're going to come back to this document, or the DOT document that talks about inspection. And if we don't have that record keeping in place, there may be some issues. So I think along with this memo, what we're going to require going forward is, and I'm going to ask for this when the project's already been designed and reviewed and we're ready to send the final package up to DOT for review. We're going to be asking for a statement from the municipality noting who will be the municipal administrator and the inspector or inspectors on the project and their contact information. And then a second statement from the engineer noting that the proposed inspection staffing levels are appropriate for the size and complexity of the project and that the qualifications and experience of the proposed staff are acceptable to the engineer, and the staff will be able to satisfactorily perform the required functions. So it's just sort of a, you know, a kind of a checks and balances as far as inspection goes, making sure that before this project goes out to construction, the municipality has a plan lined up for the inspection, and that it's acceptable to NVCOG and the engineer who designed the project. Any questions?
Yes, I guess, from my perspective, first of all, I'd like to thank you for that, memo. Certainly prudent on NVCOG's, part to make, bring it to everybody's attention, including myself. But I would say that, certainly, maybe I just don't recall correctly, but when LOTSIP was originally, created, it was going to be like an expedited construction progress to help the, municipalities, certainly these projects, still have tremendous benefit, at least, the Bristol from funding, but the bureaucracy has certainly gone up over time, and I would assume continue to go up. Compared to the first guidance from LOTSIP, how many times have they been revised? And I assume the document just gets thicker and thicker.
I would agree, and I think it's been revised at least twice that I know of.
They're working on their third revision now, I think.
Yeah.
And
I don't know
it-
what was
it-
in there. And
I was just going to say, it's not like they're adding a lot of new stuff. They're just making some tweaks and changes to the guidelines. So it really hasn't changed substantively, in their revisions. And what we're showing, or what Karen's putting together with the inspection is, we just want to make sure that, during construction, that the towns are, providing, doing their due diligence to make sure that the project is being built the way it was designed and the way it's supposed to be, and the contractors using the materials they're supposed to be, doing the, installing it the way they're supposed to be. And just to, it doesn't really add any cost to the project in a sense, because again, the LOTSIP program does provide, a 10% contingency an incidental amount that is intended to cover the cost of inspection. So we feel inspection is really important to make sure because the goal is to make sure we get good projects that can last 15, 20 years. So again, it's not anything that's really new. We're just trying to emphasize and to remind towns of the need to properly inspect the projects as they're under construction.
I don't know how many municipalities I speak for, but once again, I appreciate NVCOG bringing it to our attention, and certainly it's prudent measures. It's even a prudent measure from the DOT. Everything is, until it gets to be a problem. It just added bureaucracy.
Yeah.
That, at least from Bristol's perspective, since we're naive enough to think we always do the right thing, the less strings, the better.
Yeah, no, understood. But we just too much experiences. We've had too much experience where contractors will try to, if they can get away with it, they'll try to reduce their cost. And we just don't want that to happen. And it's. Karen has more experience in the construction inspection area than I do, but we have to do our due diligence to make sure the projects are built the way they are designed. So, again, we just want to make sure that we get decent products and projects when completed.
I believe Brian has his hand up.
And that the record keeping also, is important, especially when these projects finally do get closed down.
Just a question, Brian from Seymour. Does the municipal administrator, can that also be the consultant that does the inspections as well? Can they be one and the same?
Well, it has to be a municipal employee according to what the DOT has written into their guidelines.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions or comments? If not, just moving on, LoCIP projects.
Yep, so this is the project in Wolcott to replace the bridge on Todd Road over Lily Brook. And originally, when this came in, it was just a pre-application estimated at 1.2 million, and the estimate that they used on the pre-app was just sort of based on similar sized bridges and culverts. And the town of Wolcott hired SLR to do the actual lots of application. And when they started, researching and putting a little more time into what's going to be required for the bridge, they discovered that, for one thing, they feel like that, I guess the depth to bedrock is going to be an issue, and they feel like that's going to increase the cost of the bridge quite a bit. And, just honestly, the prices of things have jumped up so much just because of the way the economy is going that, there's an added cost in there for some inflation. So it's gone from 1.2 million up to 1.9 million. And we're asking for a TTAC endorsement for that increase.
1.2 to 1.9. It says 1.4 on the screen. 1.5, excuse me.
Well, I don't think the 1.54 includes the incidentals and contingencies.
Correct. The 1.54 you see on the screen is the raw construction cost.
So the actual change is the 1.2 up to 1.9.
So you're looking for a TTAC to approve 1.9.
Correct.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Just moving on.
I think Mark was going to talk about Waterbury.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Waterbury. Just a little history on this project. The city received a CMAQ award back in, I want to say 2012, 2013, somewhere around there, to replace and modernize 15 traffic signals in the downtown area. Through a lot of reasons that I won't get into, there was a lot of delay in that project, and so the intervening years, the cost has gone up. And unfortunately, with the way DOT sort of runs the local CMAQ program, they cap the amount of a project at what they were awarded, regardless of inflation, regardless of changes in the design and things like that. So they were originally awarded $3 million for the project. The cost is currently at roughly $5 million, which leaves from that $3 million, they did the design, which I believe was about $600,000. So basically, the project is underfunded by about $2.5 million, and the city has asked if we can, allocate lots of money to fully fund the project so they can move forward. Design of the project has been completed, and they're getting ready to go out to bid for it. However, DOT won't sort of authorize the bid opening until they have all the money in place. So we're trying to help the city out by allocating the $2.5 million from lots to supplement the project.
So from my perspective, I'm familiar with certainly familiar with the LASIP, process, and certainly familiar with a CMAQ application, and potentially in all transparency, Bristol may end up in the same situation. But
Yeah,
is this a new project?
The CMAQ for Woodbury? No, it's been
No,
on.
I'm saying, is this, so the request to supplement CMAQ application, CMAQ funding, but LASIP project for Waterbury, is this a new LASIP project for Waterbury?
I wouldn't call it a new LASIP project. It's a request to use lots of money to fully fund a project being funded under another program. We did the same thing, probably about 4 years ago. Plymouth had a project that was being funded under the STP BG program that was about $400,000 short. The town requested, supplemental funds from LASIP, which was approved. About 2 years ago, the Route 34 project in Derby, we're trying to, fully fund that project as well. And the board allocated $4 million from LASIP to supplement the Route 34 work. So it has happened in the past, and, we can consider it, as, on a case-by-case basis. And, trust me, Ray, when we were talking about this with the city, you definitely came into mind because you're in the same situation.
So in all transparency, as chairman, I represent, all the, communities, but I do use Bristol's, for example.
Yeah.
Recently, Bristol has 2 active LASIP projects. I was all set to submit on a third.
Right.
And appropriate, in my understanding is, NVCOG said, you can't submit a third, because you can't even have 3 LASIP projects, in the works, at one time. So with this, using that criteria, can Waterbury even submit a request under NVCOG's policy, or are we waiving NVCOG's policy by approving this request?
I guess in my mind, it's technically not a new project because it's just supplementing it. And yes, we would be sort of requesting, waiving of that two project limit that we sort of put in place to try to, make sure that everybody has some, access to the fund. So if this came in as a new separate project to do a signal improvement project, from day one, yes, that would have, that 2 project limit would have been, would have been more of a part of the discussion. But again, this is an ongoing project. It's a sort of
but it's not an ongoing LASIP project. It's not an additional a request for appropriation for a LASIP project. This is a new allocation for LASIP funding.
Right, but it's because we're trying to supplement, get the signal project, fully funded and built. Without our allocation of lots of funding, this project may not proceed, and it's been sort of in the works for about 10 years, and they're just now finishing up on design, and they're ready to go out to bid. It's a little bit of a special case. Like I said, if this
Once
were
again,
a new,
when Bristol asked to even submit on a third project, we were told no, that project's not.
right, because that was, you were starting as a new LASIP project from day, you fully funded under LASIP. This is a little bit different because this is a funding to supplement funding source from another federal aid program.
From NVCOG's perspective, would all the municipalities be given the same?
Yes, yeah, I mean, we did it for Plymouth, we did it for Derby. So that's what I'm saying. This is not the first time we've done this. We, had the request from Plymouth, I guess, I want to say 4 years ago, 4 or 5, for was it Bemis Road? I think it was. They were just about ready to finish up design on it, and it was.
I think it was Allentown or something.
Oh, Allentown. Okay. And it came in. roughly $400,000 over what was available, and they
But
couldn't
that,
access.
in
additional
all fairness,
funds.
just so we're clear, that wasn't, like Allentown started off as a LoSiP project.
No, it was a federal aid project.
Oh.
Yep. The same thing with the Route 34 project in Derby. We needed to allocate additional CMAQ so that project could move forward.
James Stewart has his name.
Is there a motion to, approve the project, recognizing that approval of the project would be a waiver of I guess, NVCOG's current policy and TTAC's current policy? After a motion
Ray,
and a second.
Ray, just one more comment. Quite some time ago, we decided not to include local bridges also because there was other funding available. To me, it's the same situation. In this case, where if other funding is available, I think there should be some sort of some sort of formalized policy on additional funding to close out a project. I mean, it's not that I don't support this. I just want to know how far I can push it internally. Because in the past, I always thought that, hey, if I can get 50-80% funding somewhere else, that was what we should do, and save the lots for other stuff.
Right, and in this case, there is no, we requested the state to provide more CMAQ money to fully fund this project. The city has reduced the number of signals from 15 down to, they're now down to 10. We were able to roll in 2 of the signal work under the city's East Main Street project, but they did have to reduce the number of signals that they were looking at. And we did look to try to find additional funding. And when the original, the city had been looking at trying to come up with local dollars for it, but that was difficult to do as well. So this was the thought to try to move the project forward. Again,
So,
like I said, we had looked for other money.
if I may, and once again, this isn't just a Bristol question. I consider it everybody's question, anybody in the same boat.
Mhm.
So I have a CMAQ award of 3.4 million. Due to the delay from preparing the estimate, which is actually done by a consultant, our current estimate, is like $1 million over. So next meeting, if I asked NVCOG to facilitate a supplemental appropriation, would that be a problem?
I think I would ask you to wait until you got into this farther into design, so you had a better idea exactly what the cost was going to be. Because again, based on your project,
I'm putting an RFP together right now. Our estimate doesn't cover our scope indicated in the grant. I got 2 choices. Either I change the scope or I come back to NVCOG for additional appropriation of $1 million.
Yeah. But again, all I'm saying is in the Waterbury case, they did change their scope by reducing from 15 down to 10. And 2, this is at the end of the design where they have a much better idea of what the likely cost is going to be. You're still in the initially issuing an RFQ for consultant services to do the design. You don't know what the cost of this project will end up being. It could be $1 million, it could be a little bit more, or it could be a little bit less, because right now, what your overage is based on is Condot saying, oh, it's roughly $450,000 per signal. It may be or may not. It's until you get into design, you're not going to know what your actual costs are going to be. So yes, we would consider a request to fully fund the CMAQ project. We're also working with the department saying the approach that they take, where they cap it at the final, that award amount, is, in my opinion, pretty stupid, and they should change that. So that's the other approach we're looking at, is to get the department to change their approach. But again, I think a request would be premature at this stage. You need to wait until you're getting, because the design is going to take how long for that project? A year and a half?
Yes.
And so, that's when
That's fine.
you
I'm
would have a
gonna-
much better
at,
idea of what the
Zoom
full
meeting
cost
here,
would be.
so That's fine.
Once again, is there a motion to approve? And once, if there is approved and seconded, then there'll be a discussion.
A motion to approve, Brian Seymour.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion on the table. Is there a discussion? I guess I'll, just for the record, I'll be voting, yes, I do understand the position Waterbury is in. It's important to me as chairman of the TTAC. All municipalities will be afforded the opportunity that's presented to, Waterbury. And I'm not just saying that from Bristol's perspective, because we're probably in the exact same, situation, but to me, this kind of goes against our two-project policy, but I will vote in the affirmative. All in favor?
One more thing. I think that our position as the technical advisory group is it a TTAC or is it a lots of project, which I think it is. Is it good? I think it is. So I'll be voting for it. But I think that NVCOG should work up a set of more policies and formal policies so that each town gets their fair share based on whatever criteria we all think is proper, so that there's no running up and trying to grab every last dollar you can.
Excuse me, question for Mark. What was the original cost on this? You said it's like 10 years ago or so?
Yeah, the original award was 3 million. And from that 3 million award, I want to say it was 605,000 was under design, leaving, let's say roughly 2.4 for construction. And, and the actual construction cost is closer to the 5.9 million. And that's after, reducing the number of locations from 15 to 10.
Any other comments? Time to vote. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Okay. Middlebury, Route 64 planning study.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. So this is a lots of project we'd like to apply for on behalf of the town of Middlebury. This is a planning study along Route 64, as you can see here on this little Google Maps snip. This is between Glenwood Avenue, which is on your left, going to Route 63 on the right. There is a project currently ongoing in design, I believe, at Chase Parkway at the 84 interchange. Middlebury has expressed interest in doing more pedestrian accommodations in the area, and DOT was not interested in pursuing that. So this study will be, this traffic study will be performed to look at multimodal options such as pedestrian accommodations such as sidewalks, bike lanes, etc. So the estimated cost of this study is $300,000, and the recommended motion is to approve this for NVCOG. And I'll take any questions.
I just wanted to add, I believe this is the first project for the town of Middlebury.
Okay, and additionally,
which is a good thing, but I guess wouldn't this be the first just pure planning study?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. We've been emphasizing construction, and again, we had looked at the possibility of a number of ways of addressing their concerns along Route 64. As Kevin mentioned, the first thing was to, talk to the state and say, look, you guys are redoing that interchange. It's going to, at 84 and 64, and then the intersection of 63 and 64 is going to be, really changed as well. Extend your look a little bit farther down 64 and consider what you're doing. And, again, the response was, that they weren't going to incorporate that. And we looked at doing something in-house, just using our own staff. And we thought we could do, just a real basic, a high level type of thing. And so, the thought was this would be our first planning study that would be funded under LOTSIP, and would the purpose and need, sort of led us to suggest the town to put together the LOTSIP application to try to get it funded.
And is this consistent with NVCOG's policy, TTAC policy, and is it even allowed by DOT?
Yeah, no, planning studies are allowed under the LOTSIP program, yes. And, again, our policy is sort of, emphasize construction projects, not the planning studies, but so it's something that, we haven't considered before. And, it was a thought that it would help help the town address this, their pedestrian concerns and safety concerns along this section of road.
Mark, this is Sarah. I was just curious, did they say why they didn't want to look at this area further down? Yes.
Just because it wasn't within the project limits.
Okay.
The project limits are probably 100 feet or so west of the intersection of 63 and 64. And that was sort of the reason.
Thank you.
Is there any questions, comments? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Watertown ADA ramps.
Yeah, that's me. So this is a project that has been kicking around for quite a while, but the town is on the home stretch. It's gone through third-party review recently, and so now the town is putting finishing touches on things and to get it packaged up to get, over to DOT to get it into construction. So part of the increase has to do with the amount of time it's taken to go through design. It's been, even though it's just ADA sidewalk improvements, I think the project was more complicated than anyone anticipated. There are 100 sites within the municipality that are going to be improved. And during the reviews, NVCOG reviews and the third-party reviews, there were a lot of things that were noticed, such as moving of drainage structures and extending some of the sidewalk to meet the ADA grades and things like that came up. So the bottom line is, previously we were at 1.63 million, close to about a year and a half ago, I guess. And now the increase brings us up to 2.75 million.
I'd like to point out once again, the slide shows the construction costs, and that does not include the contingencies or incidentals.
Yeah, next time we do that, we'll make sure we get the apples to apples. So we didn't pick up on that, sorry about that. So we're going from 1.63 to 2.75. And we're asking.
So you're looking for a motion for 2.75, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Naugatuck, Hillside Avenue.
Yeah, so this is a new project located in Naugatuck along Hillside Avenue. This is the current roadway is in a poor shape with a lot of brick pavers that are on top that are going in all sorts of directions, degrading in all some capacity. So the proposed project will be to replace the roadway entirely with full depth construction, with brick pavers on top and kind. We had a discussion on this a couple months ago about including the brick pavers if they were a participating or non-participating item. We reached the conclusion that the pavers will be a non-participating item, so the borough will be paying for that themselves. So as you can see, the estimated cost for the total project will be 3.9 million. We're asking for a grant of 2.2 million with the non-participating cost of 1.6 million due to the brick pavers. So the recommended motion is to accept this into the NVCOG lots of program. And of course, I'll take any questions.
Just so Jim knows, I'm not discriminating against other water. How many lots of projects does Naugatuck have active?
We have, we've completed 2 already, our Spring Street paving program and our North Main Street project. We are in design of our Rubber Avenue project and hope to go to bid in a few months. So this would be a second project, and we have none in construction at this point.
Yeah, we agree with that. We have Rubber Avenue, and then this one would be their second that would be considered active.
Is the 2.2, is that construction or is that total?
I believe that is total, but we can confirm that. I know Kleinfeld is here, and they can also chime in if they want.
So
That is the,
3.9, that
Yeah.
includes the contingencies.
yeah, that's the total with contingencies, the 2.2, I believe.
Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Is there a discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any against? No. I guess before we move off lots of, one thing I would, request is an item added to the next, agenda, which would be really 2 options, either a presentation from, NVCOG staff on existing, lots of policies, for the region, or if a, work is required, I would support forming a working committee of the TTAC to to review the policies before a presentation. Is a Mark, not to put you on the spot, but would you NVCOG be able to make a presentation, or would you rather a working group to review the policies before you present?
No, we can do a presentation on, what we currently are sort of emphasizing in terms of policies. And, if we want to create a working group after that presentation, that might be a better approach if we want to make some adjustments to it.
I don't believe I need one to add an item to the agenda, but just for the sake of a, for the record, is there a motion to request NVCOG staff present a TTAC policies at the next meeting?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, just to follow up, and again, I don't think we needed a formal motion, but yeah, it definitely is a good idea to go over and review the policy, because again, this program is now we're like 7 years into it, and we may not have had I don't believe we have had a review of our policies really in a long time. So I think it's very timely. So we'll definitely do it. And like you said, do it as sort of an ongoing thing that we can keep, if issues come up, to talk about it, because that's what we're here for, is to, address things, problems or issues that come up, not to just, come up with one guideline and say that's it. So, yeah, we'll do that.
All in favor on the motion? Aye.
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 Thank you. Just moving on, grant applications, was that anagram? Next item is a grant application, Safe Streets.
Yeah, this is a US DOT discretionary program. It's Safe Streets for All. Deadline for submitting the application is next Thursday, the 15th. So it's fast approaching us. What we decided to do was to put together a sort of a regional safety project. And the idea is to implement, various low costs, pedestrian, bike, and traffic actions, throughout the regions. So instead of 19 municipalities submitting 19 individual applications for, something small they want to do in their towns, we reached out to, all our members and asked them for ideas for, what they would like to see. And, a lot of them came back with, improving crosswalks to be, use more high visibility material, some sidewalk improvements, some, items with sidewalks like curb extensions to reduce the pedestrian crossing path, some signal revision actions to better accommodate pedestrians crossing the street. We also had gotten some requests for installing, either like, we're calling them, sort of side paths, they're multi-use trails, but instead of going in the middle of the woods, they're pretty much along a side of the road, but it becomes a space where bicyclists and pedestrians can, more safely, walk or ride their bikes. So we have a number of those projects that we received. So we grouped them all together and we're putting together a full application package that will be submitted to US DOT for consideration. A couple of uncertainties. We don't know where it's a 20% local match. We're not sure where that's going to be coming from. We're going to be requesting DOT to participate in that. And if they don't, I don't know if we're going to have the ability to actually come up with local contributions for this. But it is something that we're looking to, to submit. And like I said, we're going to be doing it on a regional basis. Out of the, our 19 towns, we did get specific requests for actions from 10 of the towns. So we're including that in our project list, but we're also including, other, undefined geographic locations. So if we, if we find that we have some need in one of the towns that didn't actually respond before, we have the ability to actually do it. So we'll keep everybody posted going forward. But it could be an interesting project. Like I said, we're trying to address mainly the pedestrian bike crashes that occur throughout the region, as well as some low cost traffic actions. And some of the traffic actions, like I said, are with the retiming of signals, but it also could be adding signs like chevrons around sharp curves, center line rumble strips if somebody wants to install that. Better edge lines and long lines to down the middle of the road. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking at, and it can provide a funding source for these kinds of projects. And the total cost right now is, of all the actions that we're looking at, is I think it's $21 million. So the federal ask would be about 17.1 million. Like I said, the application is due next week, so we'll see how we fare. I can answer any questions.
Just specific to Bristol, we requested traffic calming.
Yeah, that's in there. We're, the one issue with the two streets that you had suggested, they tend not to have, they don't have traffic, they don't have a lot of crashes on them. And this program is designed to address identified safety issues. But again, like I said, we don't have to identify specific locations. So we've included traffic calming type actions as sort of this generic regional thing. So we'll take a look at, you know, what your needs are in the city. It can either be road diet or some other kind of traffic calming to reduce speeds and reduce the exposure. We also included in the list, you know, some actions along 229, you know, that relate to the planning study we just completed. Not big actions. We're not, you know, we can't really address the big actions right now. But and this is I should get back up too. This is a 5-year program. So this is year 1. So this is going to be our first shot at it. But over the next couple of years, we can look at, you know, the bigger, you know, ticket items and work on putting together an application. Naugatuck had submitted a, you know, idea of a roundabout, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, Church Street and at the other end of Church Street or something.
Church, water.
Yeah. It looked like a real nice project, but it wouldn't fit into this regional one first for 2 reasons. One, I don't think a lot more study needs to be done on that location to see you know, how it would be configured, you know, what the you know, how would it be installed. So we have time, so that could be a good project for next year's funding cycle. And same thing with you, Ray, in Bristol, you know, looking at some higher cost items along 229, you know, would be something that we could look at next year or the year after, as opposed to trying to put it into this regional one. So, we did get some proposals for, you know, larger actions, but you know, they didn't quite fit into what we were trying to do with this regional approach.
Okay. Thanks for the update.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll tell you, it's if we get awarded, it's going to be a very interesting, because we're not quite sure how this is all going to be administered and who's going to be the you know, the project manager and things like that. Because, you know, I don't know if we've never done something like this where we've sort of created a regional project and, you know, for one pot of money. So although the feds kept saying they'd rather have a regional approach than, you know, like I said, you know, individual municipal applications. So we'll see what happens.
Thanks for the update. There was a lot of, you know, information in what you just said. And if you don't mind, I'll be reaching out to you outside the meeting.
Yeah, no problem. And we will be circulating we're putting together a narrative of the project with the project list and, you know, what we're thinking about doing. We'll circulate that. I really am hoping to get the pretty much the narrative, you know, pretty much wrapped up by Friday. So we, you know, we'll circulate it so everybody has an idea of what it is we're proposing.
Again, just moving on, reconnecting communities. Rich?
Yeah, so this is another rapidly approaching federal grant program. This one has to be submitted by October 13th. And so we've been working as NVCOG with the Northwest Hills Council of Governments and Metropolitan Council of Governments to put together kind of a multi-regional planning study. And so we're going to be asking for $800,000 with a $200,000 non-federal match to look at Route 8 from end to end, specifically focused on the communities where it passes through denser residential or commercial areas or separates neighborhoods, and looking at ways we can mitigate some of those impacts. This is another one of those programs that we're still waiting to hear whether or not the DOT will provide that non-federal match. the governor's office of the Infrastructure Program Administration said to apply anyway. So that is our plan. We'll be submitting this application, and then if we are awarded money, we'll figure out from there how to implement. But yeah, so this would be just a planning study up and down Route 8, and hopefully we'll identify some easy and actionable items to mitigate the impacts of the roadway being there.
And just to follow up a little bit, in our discussions, this is a multi-regional approach. So we're looking at partnering with NVCOG down in Bridgeport and Northwest Hills, but it'll be an NVCOG sort of driven planning study. NVCOG is sort of willing to participate, but they're going to be submitting their separate application because they want to concentrate in on a section of Route 8 in downtown Bridgeport. But they're going to be supportive. In Northwest Hills, their main focus is just going to be in Torrington. We've reached out to the city of Torrington, and they're kind of excited about the project, so they're going to be listed as a partner as well. So, but we will be sort of the prime overseer of the project. So,
Okay. Thank you. Any questions or comments? If not, moving on, a Vision Zero plan.
Yeah, so this is in support of the Safe Streets for All program, but also something that we think the region is ready for. And so if you haven't been following, or if you're unaware, the state put together through legislative action last year a statewide Vision Zero committee made up of the commissioners or appointees from 7 different state departments, led by the Department of Transportation and Deputy Commissioner Garrett Euclideo. And so they are looking at putting together a series of policies and recommendations for the state toward the goal of Vision Zero. Vision Zero is a series of strategies aimed at reducing or ideally eliminating all deaths and serious injuries on our roadways. And so we wanted to take the opportunity, especially since Safe Streets for All put such an emphasis on it, to put forward a Vision Zero plan for here in our region. We took kind of a conservative look at it. We set a goal of reaching no fatalities or serious injuries by 2060. We know that there's a lot that will go into it. There's a significant amount of expense involved, as well as it's not just infrastructure, it's enforcement, it's education, it's emergency response, and even public works, and there's so many different aspects to it. So we wanted to take a realistic look at when we might be able to achieve that. But in our Vision Zero plan, we lay out the series of policies that we want to look at and implement in order to achieve this goal. And so some of the key ones are going to be continuing with TTAC to share best practices, especially around maintenance and kind of quick implementation, safety enhancements. We'll be looking at putting together some kind of a working group of regional law enforcement to address both enforcement and education opportunities, ways that we can all cooperate to make that to make an impact in that way. And then it takes a more broad look with any new projects in the region at ensuring that the roadways are designed in a manner that is safe for drivers as well as for non-drivers. And that really it looks at roadway safety not as a driver has to be correct 100% of the time to be safe way, but in a way where the roads themselves have to be forgiving of minor mistakes. And so we look at some of those engineering implementation kind of action items, and we'll be putting together a kind of a best practices guide for some of these projects. So we have a statement we'll be bringing before the policy board on Friday, but we wanted to share this with everybody here and then answer any questions.
Okay, thanks for the info. Anybody have any questions or comments? Again, thanks for the info. If you can continue to keep us advised.
Yes, absolutely.
And then moving on to complete street policy. Mark?
Oh, okay. I thought Rich was handling this. Again, part of the Safe Streets for All program, one of the requirements is they want the region to have a complete streets policy in place. The state DOT already has one that they follow. It actually was codified in state statute. What we started working on putting together a complete streets policy for the region. But instead of trying to rush that work, we decided what we are going to propose to the board on Friday is just an adoption or endorsement of the complete streets policy that's already in place that DOT follows. And basically, it's, the basics of the policy is that the elements of complete streets will be considered in any kind of construction project. And the idea of complete streets is that we're trying to accommodate all travelers within a corridor, not just vehicle traffic. So again, it includes things like ensuring that we have sidewalks, ensuring curb extensions where it makes sense, ensuring proper shoulder width to provide some buffer separation between the travel lanes and a more of a pedestrian space, adding in bike lanes where it may make sense, or shared lane markers where it makes sense. So it's complete streets policy is to look at different kinds of elements that enhance travel for everybody, not just vehicles. So it's a good start. And so what we're going to do is just, like I said, ask the board to adopt the state's current policy as the regional policy, and then that would satisfy the requirement for the federal discretionary program.
And then just if I could chime in, then we're going to continue to create the regional policy, right?
Yeah. And
So, and if I may, not to confuse items, but we were just notified in Bristol that we received a grant for Complete Streets, which my understanding is more like an educational program for DOT.
yeah, and Karen is can give you update everybody on that because she was part of that selection process.
Yeah, that's through Smart Growth America. So they're a nationwide agency that promotes complete streets. They're kind of the go-to source for complete streets information, and they're promoting and being proactive and trying to get the word out across the country, and they have different programs in place. And so the DOT applied to be part of what they're calling the Complete Streets Academy through Smart Growth America. And for Connecticut, it includes Bristol, Waterbury, and I believe Middletown. And the other two states that were selected were California and I believe Tennessee. And it's, I could just kind of tell you a little bit from this pamphlet, through a series of virtual and in-person workshops over several months, the state and localities will learn about Complete Streets implementation and identify policy barriers and strategies for cross-jurisdictional coordination, all while planning and implementing quick build temporary street safety demonstration. So local jurisdictions are going to receive a subaward of $10,000 from Smart Growth America for materials for a demonstration project. And what I imagine this will be pretty similar to anybody who's familiar with a project that was done near the Green and Waterbury, where there's so much pavement out there. The project involved capturing some of that pavement and paint and kind of rechanneling the traffic just by painting the roadway and not reconstructing. So I'm thinking that similar type of projects will come out of this academy.
Okay, thank you. And then a regional safety action plan.
Yeah, we've been sort of talking about this, to the Vision Zero policy, the Complete Streets policy, and then the So what this is, as part of the Safe Streets for All application, in order for us to apply for what they call an implementation grant, we have to have a regional safety action plan in place that complies with federal regulations and requirements. We currently have a regional transportation safety plan that VN engineers had completed back in 2020 and was adopted in 2021. That plan doesn't quite meet the requirements for the Safe Streets for All program, but it's pretty close. And so what we're doing is updating the regional safety plan to comply with the federal regulations. And that's basically by updating our crash data. We're extracting the most recent data from UConn's repository. We're going to be endorsing the Vision Zero plan, or policy, I should say. We are updating our project list of, and again, that has been, we generated that list through outreach to all the municipalities. And, the one big thing that was sort of missing from the transportation safety plan was sort of the community outreach. And so we have been reaching out directly to the communities through a online survey tool that's also tied to the Metropolitan Transportation Plan update. So incorporating those changes and updates into the safety plan, we feel we're going to be in compliance with the federal requirements, and then that way will allow us to apply for an implementation grant as opposed to a planning grant.
Okay, thank you. And then any questions or comments? Next item is roundabout discussion.
Not sure why I was put on here. This one is new to me.
Honestly, you're not volunteered for this. Kevin is, at least on the agenda.
Okay,
so I can jump in. So
because on the slide it says me. So
yeah, so I'll jump in. So I believe a month or two ago we had a very lengthy presentation presented by DOT by Scott Bushy, the master of roundabouts. He just went on and gave a very detailed presentation on anything you could possibly know about a roundabout. So we just want to open the floor for any discussion. I know that was a very dense presentation. A lot of things happened. I know he provided a recording. I'm not sure if any of you were able to review the recording. Just kind of open the floor to talk about anything that was covered during that presentation.
Any questions or comments?
And just to add, again, the department is very interested in roundabouts. They view them as a good action to improve safety and reduce crashes, and actually helps movement through an intersection instead of having either a four-way stop or a traffic signal. So if any of the towns are interested in even thinking about that, let us know, because we're more than happy to sort of help with the initial investigation, whether it makes sense or not, or what some of the issues that you should be thinking about. But it is something that is pretty popular right now. So just encourage anybody to consider this as an action, if you have some good candidate locations.
Additionally, if you have any questions about like roundabout implementation or design questions or maintenance questions, you can reach out to us here at the COG, or you can reach out to Scott Bushy directly. I know he is happy to answer any question regarding roundabouts. Yes, Josh.
Just to broaden the discussion a little bit, one of our goals for this current fiscal year is to provide TTAC members and the other town staff with a resource of a virtual library within the transportation section of our website. And actually this particular topic and where to store it and share it kind of spurred that discussion initially. But as we're moving forward, staff will be reaching out directly to you. But I also would encourage anybody, if there are professional resources that you have already come across that you think would be helpful to share, as well as, if you have a wish list of resources that, don't necessarily make sense to purchase on an individual town basis, but might make sense as a regional purchase. Just to have additional data sources available to you. Certainly on the traffic side, we're working with Streetlight to have that as a regional resource. But in addition, if there are things like ITE publications or NCHRP publications that you would like access to, that we can share around with all the towns, definitely let us know, and we'll evaluate whether that makes sense to place within the library. That's my pitch.
Just to let everybody know, Waterbury has identified a potential roundabout location, and we're starting the evaluation of it.
And just where is that, Roy?
It's the intersection of Lakewood Road, North Main Street, and Chase Avenue. It's kind of a big, wide open, high accident location.
Thanks.
What we did is we took our high accident intersections, where we parsed the data, and we're starting to take a look at all of them and figure out what, if anything, we can do to reduce the incidents of both motor vehicle and pedestrian fatalities and accidents. As you know, roundabouts can be geographically challenging, given the right-of-way requirements.
Thanks. Any questions or comments on roundabouts? If not, Metropolitan Transportation Plan.
Yes, so we have had our MTP survey released for a couple months now, but we have recently received a bunch of cards with a QR codes in them. I don't have one physically on me. On the table. Yeah, right over here behind my screen. So we have these cards, both in English and Spanish, encouraging all members in our region to take the MTP survey, which will help us direct resources and funding into specific projects or ideas that the community wants. So if any of you haven't taken the survey, you can take the survey on our website. And of course, if you want these note cards in any of your public places, such as libraries, town halls, etc., please let us know and we can try to get some cards to you.
I want to also mention the community outreach at events that we're doing in the next couple of months.
Yes, we're gonna be at the Bristol Mum Festival and the Shelton Day. I'm forgetting off the top of my head which days those are, but we'll be out there again doing our pitch for people to take the survey. And of course, if you have any other events, like any sort of fall festival that we are not attending, we can again get you some cards, you can put them out so people can grab and take the survey.
If you don't mind, can you just send me an email along with that card, just so I have understanding of who you can be presenting at the Mums Festival?
Certainly.
Any questions or comments? If not, moving on, NVision. Mark, you're listed as a volunteer to talk on this.
I'll jump in for Mark here. So we just wanted to remind everybody, we are having our regional planning conference NVision on next Tuesday, September 13th. If you are already registered to go, we really look forward to seeing you there. And if you're not and are interested, you can still find registration information. I know we've emailed it out to this list a couple of times, and it's also available on our website. But just, we'll be having a couple of panel discussions, one focused on transportation, one focused on equity, and then a last focused on housing, as well as a couple of speakers. And we'll have, so we have a full day of programming, and we hope to see you all there.
Thanks. Any questions or comments? If not, municipal traffic signals.
So a couple months ago, DOT reached out to all municipalities within the state, and they're requesting information about municipal-owned signals within each town. They want to kind of catalog and create a database of the state status of every single signal, with the potential of improvements to be funded by DOT for these signals. So this is just a reminder to please get information out to DOT regarding information with your municipal signals.
Can you forward that to us again?
Yes.
Thank you. Route 229.
Yeah, so now that these studies are done, we just wanted to do kind of a brief overview for everybody of the end result. Ray, I know this meeting there's a ton on the agenda. We still have quite a bit to get to. Do you want to do this today, or do you want to wait and cover this in November?
No, we'll cover it in November.
Okay.
West Main Street.
Again, given the long agenda, we can cover most of this in November, and that will be true for the board as well. I believe we're going to make a presentation at the board's October meeting, just to give you all a heads up. I just want to highlight a couple of key points for both 229 and West Main. I would say that we're trying to pivot from the positive discussion that occurred at the lean event with the state to basically have our studies lead to a quicker, more effective path towards implementation, and certainly towards design. Both 229 and West Main are focused on the complete streets element, and for West Main specifically, the good news, if anyone hasn't heard yet, is that we received a $23 million raise grant for the city of Waterbury to begin implementation both of the West Main Street program, as well as enhancement of the Naugatuck River Greenway. So that is a huge positive. And also, we've been working with the consultant team from HNTB, who are preparing the new mix study, a very large scale study of the 84 Route 8 interchange for the state, and trying to find opportunities to implement West Main Street improvements as part of that larger program, just simply because it gives us access to a wider range of federal funding sources. There's also been really positive media coverage for West Main and 229 to some extent. Again, you can look at our website if you are interested to see some of that coverage. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Moving on, new mix.
Yes, I'm going to jump in for Mark on this one as well. And we'll certainly be talking about this one for a long time, but we want to cover just briefly. So the new mix team, the combination of the DOT and HNTB, have finished round one of their planning and environmental linkage study. Just so you're all aware, we, as COG staff, submitted some comments questioning some of the methodology they're using and requesting a bit of a revision to some of the alternatives they moved forward. And so they're looking now at what's going to move on into the second stage of that Pell study. The goal really with this is to cut down their long list of possible alternatives into a shorter list that can then go into NEPA work. And so we're hoping that they'll move forward with a series of options that are not only good for the highway, but are good for the city and the region as well. They will be holding a couple of public information meetings, though, starting next week. And so those are both going to be on Thursday, the 15th, one at 12 and one at 6. And so if you have the chance or an interest to attend either of those meetings, certainly they will value the input. And so we'll keep everybody updated as we learn more, of course. But again, the goal here is for us as a region to advocate for a project that is beneficial for everybody, not just for people driving on the highway.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, or if not, environmental, Aaron?
Good morning. I'll make this very brief. Working with the Naugatuck River Greenway Steering Committee, NVCOG staff has compiled information about a bunch of aspects of multi-use trail development and operations into a Naugatuck River Greenway Trail Design and Management Guide. The guide was endorsed by the steering committee last month, and it's been posted to our website. I think it would be useful, or it could be useful to any town that's building a multi-use trail, not necessarily just those on the Naugatuck River Greenway. So take a look. If you have questions, you can reach out to me. For household hazardous waste, the final waste event is scheduled for September 24th at Prospect Middle School. And all of our, so this is the last event under our current contract with our vendor MXI. So we're going to be, we've already started the procurement process that will lead to a new contract and potentially a new vendor. So stay tuned on that. For Sustainable Materials Management Program, Connecticut DEP earlier this year offered funding through a grant program to help towns reduce municipal solid waste and associated costs. 8 municipalities in our region applied for the grant with our assistance, and 4 were offered funding to institute pilot programs. So far, 3 have passed resolutions accepting those funds, and those are Ansonia, Seymour, and Woodbury. NVCOG also applied for grant funds to provide education and outreach services to the municipalities that also received grants. And we're currently working with DEP to finalize the scope of work on that. So we're looking forward to supporting those municipal efforts. And it seems to us like DEP is not, may not be done funding projects. So, they may revisit some of the previous applications that they didn't fund. So we'll keep you all apprised of that. And last, so DEP is making $1.8 million of Volkswagen diesel settlement funds available to municipalities for the installation of EV charging stations. And they're currently accepting applications for that program. So the grant can be used for to purchase and install DC fast charging or level 2 chargers in single or multiple locations, but they need to be made available to the public. There's a 35% local match, and the deadline is September 30th. You can find details on that program at the DEP Volkswagen settlement webpage. Happy to answer any questions on any of that.
What's the status of the grant for organic waste?
So that was the
Okay.
that SMM grant, and I think it seems that DEEP is sort of rolling them out a little bit at a time. I don't think they announced all of the awards all at once. So if Bristol, and I'd have to talk to Christine, who's really been working with the towns on this more closely. But if Bristol did put an application in, we can check on it for you if you'd like.
Once again, this meeting's not about Bristol, but if you could look that up and let me know.
Yep,
Yeah,
we'll do that.
I know they're coming out with more announcements, Ray. I talked to Christine as well, because Woodbury hasn't even been informed, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna roll out some more, like Aaron said.
Thanks. Any questions or comments on environmental? Moving on, municipal shared services update.
Yes, so John DeCaller is no longer with NVCOG. He has pursued a job elsewhere. So I have a little update I'm going to just sneak from him before he left. So the Municipal Public Works and Equipment Sharing Database was created in 2016. Rockwell Sharp was a vendor who currently charges NVCOG $615 annually to maintain the database. All of this information is in our database, so if you need that, let us know. Despite initial support from CEOs promoting the feature at TTAC meetings, there has been a reluctance to utilize the database, which was used to connect municipalities with each other to make arrangements with equipment sharing. NVCOG will not be necessarily notified if towns connected with each other use it, although a survey of us TTAC members a couple years ago confirmed that it wasn't used a lot. So to address a couple of common questions, what happens if a piece of equipment is broken or abused? What about insurance? The towns agreed that the best option was to send an operator from the town that owns the equipment to work out any compensation details between the two municipalities. Listing equipment in details is voluntary. The idea is to revigorate interest in usage of this database, which was suggested by Bethlehem Public's work director. So this is certainly something that I believe the town should be utilizing and NVCOG supports. But if you have any further questions, let us know.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the group? If not, and if there's not any other items to add to the agenda, then the adjournment would be in order. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for everybody's time and thanks for a productive meeting. I appreciate all the work that NVCOG staff did in putting this meeting together.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.